We're back. We're back. We got caught up in a conversation off the air with Dave Pearson about his acting debut and his Academy Award and all of that. And it's time for the John Schneider Show, by God. And the president of football operations and general manager, John Schneider, is here with us. How are you, man?
Good. How you guys doing? How was Arizona?
It was great.
Fantastic. Tan. You both are tan.
Well, I got tan. You said Dave's got blood pressure issues.
Why? Why do we have to start off like that? And it was like Pearson and Schneider had this whole thing choreographed.
It was actually, we said it at the exact same time.
They did, yeah. I don't have blood
Did we
pressure.
just become best friends, Dave?
Are you going to do karate in the garage? It's going to be great. It's good to see you in person. We were
that was bad, yeah.
Talking on the phone.
Well, the bad, and we couldn't really see each other, and you guys were delayed, and then the whole time we had Terrell Dodson upstairs, so there was like zero fun for me because I'm like, we were negotiating, and I was like, okay, are we going to get him? Is he going? So I just wanted to get off the radio as quickly as I could.
He wanted to be done with us.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah.
Well, I don't blame you. I mean, that is your job, right? This isn't really your job. So,
no.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Hey, we were just talking before you got here about your draft philosophy. We talked about it last week, where you're going with the best guy available. And I just threw out a hypothetical. Let's just say you don't move up or down you're there at 16, and the best guy available happens to be. We were trying to think of the spot, the position
the
group,
most bountiful,
position group you have. We're going. Yeah. What if the best player you have ranked is another cornerback? Would you go with another cornerback or whatever position you feel like
really,
we've got a lot of?
Really, you don't go till need until you're towards the end of the draft when you look at what's happened. And so, okay, we're going to draft. We did this several years ago. We drafted 3 running backs. Well, we drafted Brooks, the last running back. It's like he was our highest rated player. Well, we ended up just taking the best players in the 7th round, and that created a logjam. So at that point, we're like, you know what? That's probably not a great idea. Let's go with, at that point, 6th round, 7th round. Let's go with need and what your numbers look like at different positions based on what the draft has looked like so far. But that goes 1st round, 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round.
So it doesn't matter how deep you are at that position already. You're going
No, sometimes we'll move. If we have a player that's rated higher, and sometimes, like I told you guys before, we don't draft, we don't grade for the league. We grade for our team. So that grade is incorporated with need. So it all kind of plays together throughout the entire draft and in free agency as well. It's not when you're talking about there's a cutoff. Like, okay, are we overpaying this guy? Are we not offering this player enough? Is he just going to choose another team based on our offer if we're coming in too low? Or that's a whole evaluating the player and the position and how much need and all that. But you can't overdraft and you can't underdraft. You can't overpay and you can't underpay.
You got to get it exactly right.
Yeah, you have to be right in the middle. Yeah. You can't. Yeah.
When did you learn that philosophy? I know you started out in Green Bay, right? Was that 95, 96?
Well,
somewhere?
Dave, it was 1992. Thank you.
1992.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So unrestricted free agency. That's the only reason.
Yeah. So I mean,
was able to get a start.
Was
first year of free agency.
Was Wolf the guy that kind of gave you that philosophy, or where did you learn that?
That was really that was Ron Wolf, Al Davis. That was that grading scale. Ron created the grading scale, working with Al Davis and Dick Steinberg with the Jets. But just over time, our experiences with other clubs and working with the Redskins at the time and the Chiefs, working back with. In Green Bay with the people that I've worked with there over the years and the lessons you just learn from your mistakes and your wins and your losses over the years. And I've been in situations where I've worked for a president of the club. I've worked for a guy that was a head coach that was a GM, or a true GM and Ron Wolf that was in charge. So and everybody has a different way of looking at things, but I think that at the end of the day, you have to say, okay, what's best for the organization? Like I said, Mo would say, period, point blank. What's best for the organization? Period, point blank. And so, taking emotion out of it and just saying, okay, here we go. This is the decision we're going to make. And when you do what's best for the organization and you don't go on emotion or need, then you're going to be okay.
You talked about being here in the building with Dotson when you talked to us last time.
Yeah.
So you signed him, you signed Jerome Baker. What is it you like about these two guys?
Yeah, both of you guys were freaking out about the linebackers at the time. I'm like, well, okay, there's one upstairs, and there's another one flying in tomorrow night. So
Why
I
didn't you
really
tell
want
us?
to tell these guys. I really want to tell them, but I don't want the other guy going to the other club, and I don't want the guy upstairs leaving to get on the plane to go where he was supposed to go, and I almost said where he was supposed to go. So, but yeah, no, I'm sorry. What was the question?
What is it you like about these guys?
Oh,
For people
man.
that aren't as familiar with them,
Yeah.
they're not the huge names that people know, but guys you obviously had a keen interest in.
Yeah, Willie and the pro staff, they really had identified Dotson, Nolan and those guys as well as a guy that would be a great fit for us. The background part was, Dan Morgan is a good friend of ours, now is the GM for the Panthers, was with Buffalo at the time when they signed him as a rookie free agent, and has always bragged about him, been a huge fan of the instincts, and slightly undersized but great eyes, great feel for flow, be able to find the ball inside, runner blocks, and then the coverage stuff is really, really, really impressive. So it was just a matter of time. He'd always talked about when this guy gets to play, because they had some pretty good linebackers playing in front of him, and he's been a damn good special teams player. So he was really a guy we had identified, like, okay, well, if this doesn't happen, that doesn't happen, then we should probably make a move. And he's 26 years old. He came in, Coach Mike and AD and the whole, Coach Frazier, the whole defensive staff did a great job recruiting him, because he had significant interest from another club. That's what I was saying. We were trying to not let him leave the building and go get on another flight. So, so we were really excited about him. And then, Baker, we've been working on him. Jerome, since the day he was released, really met with his agent down at the combine, and we're kind of presenting our case, and we think it would be a great spot for him. Both guys have worn the dot, called the defense. Jerome right now would be the Will, Dotson would be the Mike, is the way the coaches are seeing this, and Baker's he's worn the dot. He can fly. We really liked him in college. He's just a run and hit guy. He's had a lot of production, a lot of sack production too. So, the one thing that stands out about him is his range. He can really fly around the field, and Dotson as well, both in coverage, and we're trying to get big up front and get really strong down the middle of our defense, and then try to build from there.
We always talk about like free agency or the draft about drafting or signing starters. But what about some of the guys like we're just talking about, Nick Bellore and DJ Dallas, that are like, those are the guys you fill in the back end of your roster, and how much are you, looking at those kinds of guys that, to acquire, whether it's the draft or free agency? Yeah,
the backup guys, there's phases to free agency. There's this first phase, the acquisition. There's really no end to the acquisition period. I mean, we're really doing this all the way through the year as much as we possibly can, even after the trade deadline with waiver claims, or trying to take a player off of another team's practice squad, trying to create as much depth of competition as we possibly can. But with players, like there's like first phase guys that their market's going to be high, right, wrong, or indifferent. We have to grade these players and put them in that category, and then a lot of them stay, and some of them are priced a bit high in our opinion, and they see value in themselves, which they should. They're competitors, and their agents have a high opinion of them. And then you go to phase two. Phase is right before the draft. Phase 3 is really after the draft, and then 4 is really kind of that period, that kind of dead period before training camp starts, and then into training camp. Guys that are maybe they've been rehabbing, or they just haven't found a spot yet, a veteran player. But we don't refer to them as down the line guys, because to your point, DJ, Nick Bellore, guys like that, those guys are core players, they're big part of our program here for several years. So it's okay, who are we going to be drafting? Who are we going to be signing as non-drafted rookie free agents? And then what does this next phase of free agency look like? We have guys scheduled after the owners' meetings to come in here on visits, and these are guys that again, just for some reason, just don't have a seat yet.
Are you keeping tabs on the guys that some you let go, because you said you keep the door open for anybody, whether we're talking about I don't know, Quandre or Jamal or any of
Yeah.
these guys, do you look at them like, even in Jamal's case, do you ever think, well, we could bring him back and maybe he's a linebacker. Maybe that better serves what he does well.
Yeah, I mean that's how when we acquired him, that's what we were thinking. He was a will linebacker. Like I told you guys before, he came in, was really productive. Injuries, what have you. Anyway, it didn't work out. And then the safety group right now is for some reason is a strong group. The market's there's a lot of guys that are highly qualified. Obviously, guys like Diggs and we keep tabs on those guys all the time. Really happy for the guys that as we discussed last week that went out in free agency, like Brooks, Bobby. Those guys went. The linebackers went way faster than we thought they were going to. So based on previous history, Colby Parker, D. Lou, these guys, happy for them. Again, at a certain point, you have to take emotion out of it and just focus on what's best for the organization and figure out where your stopping point is.
Tell us about those safeties, Rayshon Jenkins and Kayvon Wallace. Tell us give a little preview on those guys.
Yeah, Rayshon, we didn't think we'd be able to acquire both those guys, and Kayvon. Rayshon came in a couple days before Kayvon, had a great visit with the staff again. Defensive back guys, Carl Scott and those guys did a great job recruiting him. Really live wire, cool personality. Could play in the hole, could play in the box. He's a physical football player, great ball skills, lots of range, gets his hands on the ball. He's always been a really fiery, explosive player that carries himself with a lot of juice. Great in the locker room down there in Jacksonville. The guys really liked him, and they really liked him with the Chargers as well. And then Kayvon was a guy that we had talked to Philly about at one point, and just always kept track of him and brought him in and just stuck with him, and he had a great visit, wanted to be here, and so the fact that we were able to add both those guys creates a ton of depth, a ton of competition and options, for the coaches to really dig into and get their hands on as we try to get strong in the middle of our defense.
We were talking about the draft and the combine and workouts, and trying to remember, has there ever been, the story this week is Marvin Harrison Jr., and I know you don't want to get into specific players, but he didn't even do anything at the Ohio State Pro Day, and we were trying to remember, have we seen a player do that? That the combine's one thing. Usually they're saving it up for the Pro Day. Is that – do you remember anybody doing that?
No, I don't. It ain't really if guys are injured, that sort of thing. But he did, he did work out last year at the Pro Day with C.J. Stroud, and in JSN, and he had a great workout. He caught balls for C.J. and had a great workout. And I think there was so much buzz at that time. It was like, well, this guy's, as we've talked about before, like it's not these guys' fault. Like this guy's going to be the top player. Will probably be the first pick in the draft, and I'm totally guilty of it. We left the workout like, wow, that was really impressive. I mean, CJ was good, JSN was really good, everybody was really good, but you're like, wow, next year that guy,
right?
So he's probably like in his mind, he had a great season again. In his mind, he's probably, and obviously he's getting his advice from his father, and you really just turn the film on as a talented player.
Do you see that happening more just as things progress, like maybe more
like
top picks?
Yeah, I think
it's
rare. It's like the 1%, really, and then you have your guys that your team, like the core guys that your team, the football team is made up of. So
right.
Call it like 3 through all your undrafted rookie free agent guys. Like those guys are working out, doing whatever they can. They'll go work out for anybody, meet somebody in an alley somewhere and work out for them and run a 40 or something. There's only a select few that are that could pull that off. So, God bless him. He's a talented guy.
So you're going to the owners' meeting, and just the one thing I just have to get off my chest. We've been talking about it for a year.
Okay.
The hip drop tackle. I just can't square that in my mind. How in the world that is supposed to get done? Like nobody has shown me or anybody how you're supposed to do it. Other than like it's described, like I feel like if you wrap them around the waist and you're going to bring them down to the ground, that's just going to happen. It's gravity, and I don't see how you can. I'll stop ranting? Okay, tell me about what you think. I think. Am I wrong about that?
I've talked to you about this. I talked to Bobby Wagner about this. The guys I totally respect: Dan Morgan, John Lynch. It's very hard. They're how are we supposed to do this, right?
Right.
Defenders. Personally, I was like against it, and then went to a presentation at the combine where there was several defensive Hall of Fame players that watched the same film that they showed all of us, and it's dangerous. It really is a dangerous thing. There's guys definitely getting hurt, so it's difficult. And there was referees in there as well in this meeting, and so during this presentation, and my personal fear was, well, how are the referees going to be able to call this during a game?
Yeah.
And the response right now, and we'll see what happens at the owners' meeting, but the response right now from the referees is like, hey, it's just as easy as the horse collar, and we'll be able to take it out of the game like we did the horse collar. So, like all these different rules, there's different steps to it. I can totally understand the player, the defense, how you would feel about it, how I haven't talked to John Lynch about it now since we were at that presentation, but guys like Dan and again, Bobby, players that I totally respect, defensive players, I can understand why it would be so difficult. The thing I would say is that, from somebody that didn't play the game at your level but has studied it for so long, is that when you're watching the games and you see injuries like that, we have so much respect, admiration for these guys, people that are out there putting their bodies on the line and throwing their bodies around like that. And I've had these discussions with Cam and Doug Baldwin and Cliff Averill, and it's not I know it's football, it's a very violent sport, I get it, but it's tough to see, and you don't want to see guys losing their careers if it's something that we can take out of the game. But to your point, in the right manner, are we going to call it the right way?
Yeah.
Some of them are close. Like some of them, you're like, whoa. They're like, that's not one. Some of them are like, okay, now he just flipped his hips and dropped. Like it looks like a wrestling move, kind of. So.
Yeah, it seems like it would be hard to differentiate. If Dave's running and I dive, I'm leaving my feet. My momentum is going to carry my legs.
Well, that's part of the rule, though. You have to swing your hips. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. So when they presented it, again, I'm with you. Yeah. I was like, well, geez, how are we going to do this?
Because your weight's what is bringing the guy down.
This is 2 years we've been talking about this.
Yeah.
But when they show the play, and I'm sure they'll do it, for everybody at maybe during the owners' meeting or right after or whatever. But when you see the plays all back to back, like this is not, then you're kind of like, okay. Then is it a 15-yard penalty or is it just a fine? What is it? And then so right now the rule is that they want to present and we would vote on is that it would be a 15-yard penalty. And I'm not sure. I don't know if they would still fine the player or not as an egregious act or not. I don't know that yet. We just don't have enough information.
What
the
about
kickoff thing's going to be?
That's what I was just going to ask you.
The kickoff thing's going to be wild.
Do you like that? The proposal? It's the XFL model.
We want to keep the game. We want to keep the play in the game for sure. And the statistics, the injuries, the less concussions, all that. And I think it would be so unique that now I don't think you can just do it during the preseason and then flip it back because you're going to have the practice reps for it.
Right.
It would drive, special teams coaches nuts. But I think it's, at first I thought it was just one kicker, one returner. Now they're talking about having two returners. 5 yards apart. And then, okay, how much ground can you cover if you think about, where the kickers are going to be placing the ball. There might be more strategy to it.
Nobody can move until
we talk about
the ball's
it.
touched, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and you have to drop it into the past the
zone.
20-yard line. Yeah. So I know it sounds funky. It does. The first time I was kind of like, all right, here we go. What is this one? You know what I mean? But I think there's a chance if we can if we can keep players healthy and make it an exciting play. Great. As long as we're not just completely taking the play away. We've talked about the onside kick before. It's like, okay, well, the percentage of that is like, geez, we've talked about that for several years as well. So, but I think, kickoff returners, punt returners, I think those guys are so talented. I think you want to see that. Mm-hmm. And you want to see the, that gladiator style toughness. I mean, that's why we all respect the game as much as we do because, I mean, let's face it, not everybody can be Dave Wyman.
No, very few Dave Wymans in the world.
No.
Well,
they're
and
tough to-
all right, are you through? So the other thing I was mentioning, Rufus Porter. You remember Rufus
Adam
Porter?
Heller
Dave?
was the guy's name I was trying to tell you, but I apologize.
What was his name?
Adam Heller. He was not the strong safety, it was not the offensive line. It was the strong safety I was telling you about. I'm like, why are we doing this drill? They would toss us this when I was in college. They would toss us the ball. We had to stay in these running lanes. Okay, they put cones out, and they ran through there. And this guy, Adam Heller, was like, I think he was a military guy. He was like 25 years old, and I'm 19. I'm like 80 pounds, and they tossed me the ball, and I'm like running through there, and I like made the guy miss. He was running by me, and
course.
the coaches are like, "What are you doing, Schneider? You got to stay in the lane." I'm like, I'm not going to let that dude hit me.
They wanted a collision.
I'm like, that guy's a freaking gladiator, man. He's going to kill me. Next time I had to stay in the lane, I got smashed.
Just take it.
Yeah.
Just take it.
I don't know what that proves, that drill. Yeah, I was talking about Rufus Porter and how I remember he forced a guy to redirect at the 5-yard line. Like he ran like a 4 flat flying 40 or something like that. So, and I just hope that doesn't take those guys out of, because he doesn't make the team if it's not for that. And then
Agreed.
And then he ends up being a Pro Bowler as an edge rusher later. But
Right.
I don't know, that part of it. And I heard a player talking about how that's how a lot of us make the team is by, lighting your hair on fire and running down on a kickoff
Right.
or punt or something like that. So
But last year it was really like, it just felt like, you had punt return, and that was it.
yeah,
And that didn't, obviously, the field goal units, but I mean, like what special teams plays are impacting the game, and it was just felt like just those 2 units really, the punt return. So
Yeah.
I just hope it doesn't go away, but we want to keep the guys, as healthy as we possibly can. The concussion rates on those plays are huge.
Hey, we talked to you last week. You guys had just made the Sam Howell deal. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Does that change the urgency, if there was urgency, to get a quarterback in this draft? Because this is supposed to be the deep quarterback draft next year, according to the analysts, is not great. So I don't know if you felt, hey, we got to get a guy this year. Does that acquisition change your approach to the draft at all in terms of quarterbacks?
No, not necessarily, but I will say post-combine, the first negotiating window weekend when Drew went to the Giants, there was a level of, okay, now this guy threw the ball great, that guy threw the ball great, You're like, okay, well, that team needs a quarterback, that team needs a quarterback, that team needs a quarterback. We need a backup quarterback. Like, we need to get on this thing, and we got on it and hung in there, and we were one of 4 teams that was in it, and Adam Peters, I give him a lot of credit. Like, he hung with us, and we were. I'll tell you what. Later on that night, I was really, really blessed, relieved after getting calls from other clubs that were kind of like. How'd that happen? What do we, it's like kind of just staying in touch with somebody, and, there was a gap of, I don't know if they were traveling or what, but just be able to stay in touch with them that day and be able to work it out. It was awesome.
Well,
and then Sam came in and had a great, he came in that same day. I was like, oh, that's right. We traded for you. I was like, that's right. The quarterback's here too. Where it was like crazy up in the hallway. So great guy. You guys will get to know him. He's awesome.
cool. Well, have a nice trip down there. Is gonna get a chance to go to Disney World or anything like that, or
No, Dave.
No.
We're we sit in air conditioned. No, I think there's like
No, Dave.
Saturday or Wednesday. I think we'll be able to get that. I don't want to get fried. I'm always worried about getting fried.
Yeah.
Don't get fried.
No.
Yeah. And if you do have time for Disney World, enjoy that too.
Yeah.
That'll be great.
Just get out and just enjoy the ride.
Just abandon the meetings.
Forget about stuff.
I'm not interested in the hip drop. I'm going to see Mickey.
and if you do get sunburned, just tell everybody you have high blood pressure.
Well, could very well be.
John, we appreciate you,
All right,
man.
guys. Have a great week.
You too. There you go. There's John
Good to see you.
Schneider. We'll talk about what he had to say coming up next as we continue live from the Virginia Mason Athletic Center. It's Wyman and Bob, Seattle Sports on 710.